time.
Bobby DeBarge, the lead singer of the popular Motown group Switch, had a voice that captivated millions with its soulful falsetto and raw emotion. But behind the chart-topping hits, his life was marred by dark secrets and tragic struggles that ultimately led to his downfall. Now, the DeBarge family has finally addressed the persistent rumors surrounding the singer's life and death. What secrets have been kept hidden for so long? Let's find out. Early life. Bobby DeBarge, born on March 5th, 1956, was the eldest son of Ederline and Robert DeBarge Sr. in Detroit, Michigan. The DeBarge family would later become well known in the music industry for producing several talented singers and musicians, particularly through the success of the family group DeBarge. However, Bobby DeBarge's early life was marked by challenges and personal struggles, laying the foundation for the troubled life that would follow. Bobby DeBarge grew up in a household fraught with instability and mistreatment. His father, Robert DeBarge Sr., was an army soldier of French descent, while his mother, Ederline, was African American and of devout Christian faith. The racial differences in their marriage were a source of tension and societal prejudice, but more damaging was the inappropriate behavior of Robert DeBarge Sr. toward his wife and children. Bobby and his siblings, including his younger brother Tommy, who would later play a key role in Bobby's musical journey, endured significant physical and emotional abuse from their father. This toxic environment created deep psychological wounds that would later manifest in Bobby's personal life. At the age of 15, Bobby was introduced to heroin, which would become a lifelong struggle. The introduction to substance at such a young age, coupled with the trauma he experienced at home, left him vulnerable to addiction. Substance misuse would haunt him for the rest of his life, contributing to many of the difficulties he would face, both personally and professionally. In the early 1970s, the DeBarge parents separated and eventually divorced, leading to significant changes for Bobby and his siblings. The family relocated to Grand Rapids, Michigan, where they sought a fresh start. Despite the tumultuous household, the DeBarge siblings were blessed with natural musical talent. Bobby, in particular, displayed exceptional skills as both an instrumentalist and a vocalist. He began playing in local bands, often alongside his brother Tommy. These early experiences in Grand Rapids set the stage for Bobby's entry into the professional music scene, music career. In 1975, Bobby DeBarge's musical career took a significant leap forward when he joined forces with fellow Grand Rapids musician Gregory Williams. Both DeBarge and Williams had a shared vision for success and saw potential in creating a band that blended their unique talents. Their collaboration would eventually lead to the formation of one of the most influential groups in the R&B and funk scenes of the late 70s and early 80s. Williams and DeBarge began recruiting talented musicians from the Midwest, forming a group that initially caught the attention of R&B legend Barry White. At the time, White was riding high on the success of his lush orchestral sound that defined 70s soul. White brought the newly formed band under his wing as part of his background group, White Heat. Under White's direction, the band quickly got to work and released their debut album in 1975. However, despite the guidance of Barry White and the group's raw talent, White Heat's album failed to gain the traction they had hoped for. The group's time under White's management was short-lived due to financial and tax issues, leading White to dissolve most of the band, retaining only one member. After the dissolution of White Heat, DeBarge and Williams, along with several other former members, decided to press on and regroup under a new name, Hot Ice. This transition marked a pivotal moment in Bobby DeBarge's career, as it allowed him to further hone his skills as a vocalist, songwriter, and instrumentalist. The group's sound evolved, integrating more funk and soul influences with Bobby's signature falsetto and emotive vocal style. In 1976, Hot Ice recorded an album titled Pall Mall Groove, which featured a range of tracks that showcased the group's versatility and chemistry. Among the standout songs on the album was Please Don't Let Me Go, a composition by Bobby DeBarge that highlighted his incredible singing and piano performance. The track showed DeBarge's ability to blend heartfelt lyrics with soulful melodies, making it one of the defining moments of the album. Pall Mall Groove was initially released in 1977 on Polydor in Germany, finding limited success in the European market. It wasn't until 1979 that the album was released in the United States and Canada under the name Smash on Source Records, a subsidiary of MCA Records. Even then, the album remained relatively obscure, only achieving widespread recognition much later. Though the album did not achieve major commercial success at the time of its release, it later became a sought-after collector's item due to its significance in the careers of Bobby DeBarge and Gregory Williams, as well as its role in laying the foundation for what would become the band switch. Fans of late 70s funk and soul began to rediscover the album, appreciating it for its authentic sound and the raw talent of its performers. In 2005, Pall Mall Groove was reissued globally by Burnsman Records, introducing it to a new generation of listeners. The reissue allowed for a reevaluation of Bobby DeBarge's early work and gave insight into the development of his musical style. Tracks like Please Don't Let Me Go became emblematic of the struggle and passion that defined his life and career. The song's lyrics, paired with DeBarge's soaring vocals and expressive piano playing, are a poignant reflection of the emotion he was able to channel into his music despite the personal battles he faced. In the mid-70s, after the dissolution of White Heat, Bobby DeBarge found himself at a crossroads. Despite his considerable talent as a vocalist, instrumentalist, and songwriter, his career had failed to take off in the way he had hoped. The failure of White Heat's debut album, coupled with his worsening heroin addiction, left DeBarge despondent and disillusioned. He returned to Grand Rapids, Michigan, deeply frustrated by his stalled career and increasingly dependent on substance, as an escape from his mounting disappointments. While DeBarge was sinking deeper into his addiction, Gregory Williams, who had also been a member of White Heat, remained determined to pursue success in the music industry. Staying in Akron, Ohio, Williams began scouting for new talent and piecing together a new band. His vision was to create a group that could offer a dynamic and versatile sound, characterized by the members' ability to switch between different instruments and roles. This concept would become central to the identity of the group that eventually became Switch. Williams recruited several musicians from the Midwest, including Tommy DeBarge, Bobby's younger brother, Philip Ingram, brother of James Ingram, Jody Sims, Eddie Fluellen. With this lineup, Williams and the group worked on creating a demo tape to present to record labels. The demo showcased not only their vocal harmonies and instrumental proficiency, but also their ability to rotate instruments seamlessly, an unusual and innovative feature that set them apart from other R&B and funk bands of the time. With the demo tape in hand, Williams took a bold step and approached Motown Records, the legendary label known for its roster of iconic artists like Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross, and Stevie Wonder. Despite the label's waning influence by the late 70s, it still had the prestige and resources to propel talented acts into the spotlight. Motown executives were intrigued by the band's versatility and unique concept, recognizing the potential for crossover appeal. They saw that Switch's ability to switch instruments, combined with their polished sound, could translate into commercial success. Motown expressed interest in signing the group, but before finalizing the deal, Williams extended an invitation to Bobby DeBarge to join the band. Bobby, still yearning for the stardom that had eluded him with White Heat, saw this as a golden opportunity to revitalize his career. However, his heroin addiction posed a significant challenge. Determined to make the most of this second chance, Bobby vowed to get clean, recognizing that his substance use had already derailed his career once and could do so again if left unchecked. His decision to join Switch marked a crucial turning point in both his life and the trajectory of the band. With Bobby DeBarge on board, the band's lineup was complete, and Motown quickly signed them to its Gordy subsidiary label. Bobby's presence in the group was transformative, As the band's lead vocalist and one of its primary songwriters, he brought a distinct style and depth to Switch's sound. His high-pitched falsetto became a signature element, adding a layer of emotional intensity to the group's ballads and up-tempo tracks alike. Bobby also played a key role in arranging and producing the band's music, drawing from his experience with White Heat and his deep understanding of R&B, soul, and funk. In 1978, after signing with Motown's Gordy label, Switch released their self-titled debut album. The album marked a pivotal moment for the band and became a defining project for its members, especially Bobby DeBarge, whose contributions as a lead vocalist and songwriter were instrumental to its success. Produced by Jermaine Jackson, who was already a significant figure in the Motown universe, the album showcased the band's versatility and laid the groundwork for their future success. Switch's debut album was an immediate hit, reflecting the band's ability to blend smooth R&B, funk grooves, and heartfelt ballads. The album's success was propelled primarily by the single "There'll Never Be," a timeless ballad written entirely by Bobby DeBarge. The song quickly became one of Switch's most recognizable hits, climbing to the top of the R&B charts and helping the album achieve gold status. "There'll Never Be" highlighted Bobby's remarkable falsetto, which became the signature sound of the group and set them apart from other R&B acts of the era. The track's lush arrangement, coupled with Bobby's emotive vocal delivery, resonated deeply with listeners, making it a staple of late 70s R&B. In addition to "There'll Never Be," the album featured another standout track, "I Want to Be Closer." This song became a fan favorite due to its tender lyrics and the chemistry between Bobby DeBarge and Philip Ingram, who shared lead vocal duties. The smooth, soulful melody and heartfelt lyrics made "I Want to Be Closer" a highlight of the album and a favorite among Switch fans. The debut album not only showcased the vocal talents of Bobby DeBarge and his bandmates, but also emphasized their musicianship. The band's ability to switch instruments during performances added a unique dimension to their sound and stage presence, earning them a reputation as one of the most dynamic live acts in the industry. Their seamless transitions between roles, both vocally and instrumentally, made them a standout in the competitive R&B landscape. Riding high on the success of their debut, Switch quickly returned to the studio, again under the guidance of Jermaine Jackson. In 1979, they released their second album, Switch 2, which built on the foundation laid by their debut. Once again, the album struck gold, bolstered by the popularity of another Bobby DeBarge penned single, "I Call Your Name." Like its predecessor, this song showcased Bobby's soaring falsetto and became one of the group's defining hits. The track's romantic lyrics and smooth production appealed to R&B audiences, solidifying Switch's place as one of the era's most beloved groups. Switch 2 also featured other standout tracks that displayed the band's versatility, musicianship, and ability to craft both up-tempo songs and soulful ballads. The consistent quality of their music, coupled with their distinctive style, made them a favorite among R&B fans and allowed them to carve out a niche in a crowded musical landscape. While the entire band contributed to Switch's success, Bobby DeBarge was undeniably its creative and vocal heart. His multi-octave vocal range, particularly his falsetto, became the signature element of the group's sound. Bobby's songwriting also played a crucial role in defining the band's musical identity. Tracks like "There'll Never Be" and "I Call Your Name" were deeply personal, reflecting his experiences and emotions. His ability to translate these feelings into music that resonated with a broad audience was a key factor in the band's rise to prominence. Switch's success was not just confined to their recordings. They quickly became a sought-after live act. Their performances were marked by high energy, flawless musicianship, and the unique spectacle of watching the band members switch instruments seamlessly throughout their set. This versatility became a defining characteristic of the group and was a major draw for audiences. Additionally, their blend of funk, soul, and smooth R&B appealed to a wide demographic, helping them attract a diverse fan base. Their third studio album. In 1980, Switch reached another milestone with the release of their third studio album, This Is My Dream. The album marked a significant moment for the group, as it was their first project without input from Jermaine Jackson, who had been instrumental in producing their previous albums. Instead, the album's production was led by the band's founding members, Bobby DeBarge, Gregory Williams, and Jody Sims, who took the reins to shape the sound and direction of the project. The shift in creative control allowed the band to further explore their musical vision, resulting in another successful release that earned gold certification. This Is My Dream continued to build on the formula that had made Switch a success. Smooth harmonies, soulful melodies, and the band's trademark ability to switch instruments during performances. The album's standout track, Love Over and Over Again, became a major hit and further solidified Switch's place in the R&B landscape. Written by Bobby DeBarge, the song showcased his signature falsetto, which had become the defining sound of the group. The lush arrangement, heartfelt lyrics, and catchy melody made Love Over and Over Again a fan favorite and a staple on R&B radio. The album as a whole demonstrated the band's growing maturity and confidence as artists. With production fully in their control, Switch was able to craft a cohesive project that blended elements of funk, soul, and pop, all while staying true to their smooth R&B roots. This Is My Dream reflected the band's ability to evolve while maintaining the sound that had brought them success, and it remains one of their most well-regarded albums. While the album was a success, it also marked the beginning of a tumultuous period for the group. Bobby DeBarge, who had managed to stay clean from heroin during much of the late 70s, relapsed into addiction around this time. His return to heroin use was compounded by the introduction of cocaine, which only worsened his struggles. The toll that his addiction took on his health and relationships within the band became increasingly apparent. Tensions began to rise as Bobby's erratic behavior and growing dependency on substances caused friction among the group members. The impact of Bobby's addiction extended beyond personal relationships. His declining focus and reliability in the studio and during performances made it difficult for the group to function smoothly. Despite his immense talent and central role in the band's success, Bobby's substance misuse issues created a rift that was becoming impossible to ignore. In 1981, Switch released their fifth album, Switch 5. By this time, the cracks within the group were beginning to show. Although the album still featured the band's signature blend of smooth ballads and upbeat funk tracks, it did not achieve the same level of commercial success as its predecessors. The music industry was changing, and internal struggles within Switch were starting to take their toll on the band's creative output and cohesion. Around this time, Motown saw potential in Bobby DeBarge as a solo artist and offered him a solo recording deal. For Bobby, this was an opportunity to step out on his own and pursue his artistic vision, but it also worsened the existing tensions within the band. Feeling both pressure and excitement, Bobby decided to leave Switch, effectively ending his tenure with the group that had brought him fame. Bobby's departure marked the beginning of a new chapter for both him and Switch. While he embarked on a solo career, the band was left to regroup and move forward without their lead vocalist and primary creative force. The loss of Bobby was a significant blow to Switch, as his unique voice and songwriting talents had been central to their identity and success. For Bobby DeBarge, the transition to a solo career was fraught with challenges. Although he possessed immense talent, his addiction issues continued to plague him, hindering his ability to fully capitalize on the opportunities that came his way. His solo work, while respected by those familiar with his contributions to Switch, did not achieve the same level of mainstream success. Meanwhile, Switch continued to make music without Bobby, but their sound and popularity began to wane. The departure of such a key member created a void that was difficult to fill, and the group struggled to recapture the magic that had defined their earlier work. Despite these challenges, Switch remained a respected name in the R&B world, with their earlier hits continuing to resonate with fans. By 1983, Bobby DeBarge had transitioned from being primarily known as the lead vocalist and co-creator of Switch to a key figure in overseeing the careers of his younger siblings who had formed the family group, DeBarge. While he continued to struggle with his addiction, Bobby's musical influence was undeniable, and he played a crucial role in shaping the early sound of DeBarge, the group that would go on to become one of Motown's biggest acts during the 80s. Bobby DeBarge co-produced DeBarge's self-titled debut album, released in 1981. While the album didn't achieve massive commercial success, it was an important stepping stone that introduced the group's smooth vocal harmonies and laid the foundation for their future hits. The album's centerpiece was the song Queen of My Heart, a track co-written by Bobby and his younger brother DeBarge, who was quickly emerging as the group's lead singer and creative force. Queen of My Heart showcased Bobby's distinctive falsetto in the ad-libs near the end of the song, a signature of his style that added depth to the track. The song became a key moment in the group's development and would later be re-recorded for their third album, In a Special Way, 1983. The polished version, produced by DeBarge, highlighted the growing sophistication in the group's sound and marked a significant step forward in their musical evolution. As DeBarge gained popularity, DeBarge's role within the group expanded. took on more responsibilities as a producer and songwriter, gradually becoming the face and driving force behind the band. His smooth tenor voice and charisma made him a standout star. And as the group released successful albums like All This Love, 1982, and In a Special Way, 1983, it became clear that was poised for solo stardom. The family dynamic was both a source of strength and tension within the group. Bobby's early influence was crucial in helping the siblings find their musical identity, but his ongoing struggles with addiction and the overshadowing rise of DeBarge led to growing friction. While Bobby had once been the leader in Switch and a mentor figure within DeBarge, L's growing success signaled a power shift that was difficult for Bobby to navigate. By 1987, DeBarge was at a crossroads. The success of their albums had positioned the group as a major R&B act, but internal tensions and the lure of solo careers began to pull them apart. DeBarge and their sister, Bunny DeBarge, both left the group to pursue solo endeavors, with achieving the most success, particularly with his hit song, Who's Johnny, and his self-titled debut album. The departure of and Bunny marked the end of DeBarge as fans knew it, and without their two most prominent members, the future of the group was uncertain. While his siblings found success, Bobby DeBarge's solo aspirations faltered. He struggled to produce his solo debut due to ongoing battles with substance addiction and the instability that came with it. His album failed to make an impact commercially, and his hopes of establishing himself as a solo artist were dashed. Faced with these challenges, Bobby decided to rejoin his remaining siblings in a revamped version of DeBarge. In this new iteration, the group was reconfigured as a quartet consisting of Bobby, Randy, Mark, and James DeBarge. This lineup went on to record the album Bad Boys, released in 1987. While the album featured moments that hinted at the group's former glory, it failed to recapture the magic of earlier hits. Bad Boys was largely overlooked, as the absence of and Bunny, along with Bobby's ongoing personal struggles, had a clear impact on the group's cohesion and ability to produce the same level of success. The late 80s were a difficult period for Bobby DeBarge. His inability to maintain the momentum of his career was deeply tied to his worsening addiction issues. By this time, the DeBarge family was dealing with multiple crises, as several of the siblings, including Bobby, became entangled in the dangerous cycle of substance misuse. Despite these challenges, Bobby's contributions to both Switch and DeBarge left a lasting mark on R&B and soul music. His falsetto, songwriting, and production skills were integral to some of the genre's most memorable tracks during the late 70s and early 80s. However, his potential as a solo artist was never fully realized due to the personal demons that he was unable to overcome. By 1988, Bobby DeBarge's career took a tragic downturn when he was convicted on substance trafficking charges in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The charges stemmed from his ongoing involvement with substance, which had plagued much of his adult life. As a result, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison, a punishment that marked a significant low point in the talented musician's life and career. The conviction and subsequent incarceration effectively halted Bobby's musical journey, just as he had been attempting to rebuild it. Bobby DeBarge's struggles with substance misuse had been a recurring issue throughout his career. Introduced to heroin as a teenager, Bobby's addiction only deepened over the years, contributing to tension within his bands, Switch and DeBarge, and ultimately derailing his once promising solo aspirations. The substance charges in 1988 were the culmination of years of destructive behavior, resulting in his incarceration at a time when he was still battling the demons of addiction. His imprisonment not only removed him from the music scene, but also had a profound impact on his personal life. During his time behind bars, Bobby reportedly came to terms with many of his struggles, and he sought to regain some sense of normalcy and stability. However, the environment of prison, combined with his already weakened state due to years of substance misuse, took a significant toll on his health. Sometime before his prison sentence in the late 80s, Bobby contracted HIV, which eventually developed into AIDS. It's unclear exactly when or how he contracted the virus, but his deteriorating health became evident after his release from prison in 1993. At the time, the stigma surrounding HIV/AIDS was still profound, and the disease was often a death sentence due to the lack of effective treatment options. Despite his health challenges, Bobby remained determined to return to music. Upon his release from prison, Bobby vowed to stay clean and dedicated himself to getting his life back on track. He signed a management agreement with Bernd Lichters, a figure who had worked with DeBarge years earlier when Hot Ice recorded the Pall Mall Groove album. This reconnection with Lichters marked a renewed partnership, symbolizing Bobby's hopes for a fresh start. Additionally, he reconnected with Ed Wright, with whom he had formed a management partnership in 1985, further signaling his determination to make a strong comeback. During this period, Bobby began working on material he had written while incarcerated. His time in prison had allowed him to reflect deeply, and he used music as a form of therapy and expression. Although weakened by illness, Bobby's creativity and passion for music remained strong. Guided by Lichters and his close friend and longtime bandmate, Gregory Williams, Bobby started recording tracks for what would become his final album, It's Not Over. The project was deeply personal and carried symbolic weight for Bobby. The title itself reflected his belief that his story and music career were not yet finished, despite everything he had endured. The album was a mix of soul, R&B, and contemporary sounds, echoing the signature style that had made him famous, but with a more reflective and somber tone. Throughout 1994 and into 1995, Bobby worked tirelessly on the album, despite his declining health. He recorded the tracks while staying at Williams' home in California, where he could quietly focus on the project. This period was marked by a combination of hope and resignation. Hope that the music could be a testament to his legacy, and resignation that his time was limited. In the last months of his life, Bobby returned to Michigan, where he spent his final days. By this time, his health had deteriorated significantly, and he was preparing for the end. However, completing the album remained his priority, and he succeeded in finishing it shortly before his death. Tragically, on August 16, 1995, Bobby DeBarge passed away due to complications from AIDS. He was only 39 years old. His death was a tragic end to a life that had been marked by incredible talent, unfulfilled potential, and a series of personal battles that he could never fully overcome. Bobby's passing was a devastating loss for his family and the music world, which had seen glimpses of his greatness during his years with Switch and DeBarge. It's Not Over was eventually distributed independently on A&E Records. The album serves as both a final creative statement and a poignant reflection of Bobby's life. It features tracks that showcase his signature falsetto and heartfelt lyrics, capturing the essence of his artistry even as his voice and strength were fading. The album's release was bittersweet for fans and those who had worked closely with him, as it provided a glimpse into what could have been a revitalized phase of Bobby's career had he not been overcome by illness. It's Not Over remains a powerful and emotional work, deeply appreciated by those who followed Bobby DeBarge's career. Though it did not achieve widespread commercial success, it has been recognized as a fitting conclusion to a life that was full of musical brilliance, personal tragedy, and a constant struggle for redemption. The album's title track, in particular, resonates as a defiant message from Bobby, a declaration that his music and legacy would endure beyond his struggles and his passing. Personal life. Bobby DeBarge's personal life was marked by both romantic relationships and the turmoil caused by his struggles with substance abuse. These facets of his life have been the subject of both fascination and sorrow for those who followed his career and knew him personally. One of the most discussed relationships in Bobby DeBarge's life was his romance with LaToya Jackson, a member of the famous Jackson family. The two were involved for several years, and their relationship captured public attention, given the prominence of both families in the music industry. LaToya was at a pivotal point in her career during this time, releasing solo work and stepping out from the shadow of her more famous siblings. Bobby's relationship with LaToya was also reflected in his music. The song You and I, a romantic ballad that appeared on Switch's debut album, was inspired by LaToya's single night Time Lover. Bobby wrote You and I in direct response to LaToya's song, which demonstrated how deeply their connection influenced his creative output. Their relationship appeared to be intense and passionate, but by 1984, they had parted ways. The reasons for their breakup have never been fully disclosed, though the pressures of their careers and Bobby's mounting personal struggles may have played a role. Following his split from LaToya Jackson, Bobby found stability in his marriage to a woman named Terry. The couple had 2 children, Christian and Bobby 3. Despite Bobby's battles with addiction and his career ups and downs, his family remained an essential part of his life. His children have largely stayed out of the public eye, but they have been vocal in honoring their father's musical legacy. However, Bobby's issues with addiction continued to cast a shadow over his personal life. These addictions not only derailed his career, but also put a strain on his relationships, including his marriage. Bobby DeBarge's has been a topic of speculation, fueled by his complex and troubled personal life. In TV One's Unsung episode dedicated to Switch, both Bunny DeBarge, Bobby's sister, and Gregory Williams, his former bandmate, openly discussed Bobby's biology. This revelation shed light on a facet of Bobby's life that had remained hidden from the public for many years. According to Bunny and Gregory, Bobby's bisexuality was something he struggled with internally, especially considering the social and cultural climate of the time. In the 1970s and 80s, being open about one's sexual identity was much more challenging than it is today, particularly for someone in the public eye. Bobby's inner turmoil over his identity may have contributed to the deep sense of isolation he often felt, and possibly exacerbated his substance abuse issues as he sought to cope with his conflicting emotions. This aspect of Bobby's life adds a layer of complexity to his story, as it underscores the emotional battles he was facing alongside his well-documented struggles with addiction. For those who knew Bobby, sexuality was just one part of a multifaceted and deeply private man who was often at odds with himself. Bobby DeBarge's personal life is a reflection of the often tragic intersection between genius and vulnerability. On one hand, he was a talented musician, a loving father, and a man capable of deep affection, as seen in his relationships with both LaToya Jackson and his wife Terry. On the other hand, His battle with addiction and the societal pressures of the time contributed to a life filled with conflict, both internal and external. What do you think of the tragic story of Bobby? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you like this video? Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more entertaining videos. And do not forget to explore our other videos for more interesting stories and insights.